Hi there, my name is Prasanjit, and in this video I'll demonstrate how you can use Duet AI to identify security misconfigurations in a GKE cluster. So let's get started. So to begin with, we'll set up our Duet AI API, enable it on the Cloud Console. So I have launched the Cloud Shell, and first of all, once the Cloud Shell is up and running, we'll set up the project variables, the user variables, so at the region and so on. So here I set up the variable for the project and the region, and next would be to set up the user variable, authorize it, and then we'll set up the user roles so that it can work on the Cloud AI Companion API, and that'll enable us to work with Duet. So here we are adding the IAM roles as the next command, and once the project IAM roles are set up, we can launch our Duet AI chat window. So I think we are done. Now I just want to create a GKE cluster for this demonstration before we go ahead with Duet. So a simple cluster called test with one node. So we can just check out the security misconfigurations part that we are aiming to look at in this demonstration. So this cluster creation takes a while. We'll fast forward, and then once it is completed, we can get started. So here we are, we have the cluster, and it is running, and we can now move on and clone the microservices demo. So we'll deploy certain microservices on that GKE cluster, and then look at the logs and see if there are any security misconfigurations. So let's have a look at the Kubernetes manifest.yaml, which tells us about the various microservices that will be deployed on the GKE cluster, which port they will work on, what Docker images they will be pulling, and so on. So let's deploy that. We'll use the kubectl command and apply the YAML file to deploy the microservices on our cloud node. So the GKE is getting populated with various microservices. Now all the microservices are up and running now, and we should be good. So I'll just give the kubectl get service frontend IP. So the IP is populated now. So this is where we will be able to see our website that has been deployed. So this is going to be a shopping website, our online boutique demo. So it's fully functional and working on our test cluster, which is good. And just click here and there just to see whether it's working properly or not. So here we are. We have our demo microservice bundle installed. Now let's click at Duet AI chat window, enable it, and then we'll have the chat ready for us. All right. So we can start with entering a prompt like, what services in Google Cloud can help me identify areas to improve security for a set of microservices running on GKE cluster, which is our use case right now. So it tells us that you can look at security command center, binary authorization, cloud audit logs, and VPC control. So SCC looks the viable option for whatever we are going to do now. We want to check the vulnerabilities for Kubernetes. So let's go into security and overview. That brings us to this screen, and let's put up a prompt. How does Security Command Center define a vulnerability? Just to understand and scratch beneath the surface. So it tells Security Command Center defines vulnerabilities as a flaw or weakness, and so that is what we are looking for. We are looking for the flaws, and it also provides the source from where it finds. So here you can see the classes of flaws like threat, vulnerability, misconfiguration, observation, and so on. So based on which class it lies, where we can probably prioritize or deprioritize it and find the solution, and we get further information in these links that are provided. Now let's go to findings, and let's say, for example, look at we can look at the let's try to filter it a bit. Will only filter out the stuff that is Google Container Cluster related, that is GKE, and from here we'll look at the cluster secret encryption disabled. Alright, so here for this particular vulnerability, you can see the AI generated summary. So this is generated by Duet, and it tells us more about the issue, the solution, the attack exposure score, and so on. And it also gives us the information about how to mitigate those problems. So now what would be the next steps and so on. So really useful when we are looking at solving security issues or detecting them. So you get a detailed summary of that particular vulnerability, and also a JSON with all these details. So as I mentioned, this is generated by Duet. Now here is some recommendations on how to fix that error, and the detailed steps to do that. Well, now let's move on and check any other error. For example, overprivileged account. This is also a medium severity vulnerability, and the AI generated summary talks about it in detail, and we have the fix recommendation here, like how to mitigate this issue with all the commands in detail to do that. So really useful. Otherwise one would have just looked at the error or stumbled upon it, and then would have had to look into the documentation or raise a support ticket. So here your requests to Google Cloud Support or any other third party whom you are using to mitigate your issues will decrease. You can be self-reliant and use Duet to be able to find security vulnerabilities, find the fixes, and go ahead and deploy them. Now, for example, this is another vulnerability, master authorized networks disabled. Now, it is a misconfiguration type of vulnerability and of medium severity, and you have the option to mitigate it by reading the fixes which are suggested by Google Cloud Duet AI. So here I'll look for the control plane authorized networks. So here that is, so I'll edit it and enable that instead of keeping disabled. So So here we have it enabled and allowed access through Google Cloud public IP addresses. Now that will be applied to the cluster. Now that is in progress now. The cluster is being updated. We can have a look at the status on the top, where also you can see what is the status of that update. And now let's go to Duet and ask how do control plane authorized networks work in Google Kubernetes engine. And it responds that by default the control plane is accessible from any address. However, we can add one or more authorized networks to restrict access only to those networks. So that is how this is useful. I mean, it gives us pinpointed suggestions and links which allow us to resolve the security misconfigurations as well as any question in depth. So here we have the control plane authorized networks setting updated, and that is how you use Duet AI to get your security misconfigurations corrected, as you saw in this video. Hope you learned something out of it. Thanks for joining in.